straight in.
Okay, so we've been using direct pressure to work the deeper tissues of the Hara. We're going to take that a stage further now and begin to use some tissue mobilization techniques, very much the same techniques that we've been using in other contexts. So our starting point is going to be the same deep pressure in. Once we've reached our barrier, there's a number of things we can do at this deeper level. One of the simplest, most obvious things will be that we can then use circular technique deep in here at the barrier, or we can use vibration. Where getting a little bit more interesting is that we can go through the 8 directions. I always do this as a cross pattern. And this in itself is a tissue mobilization. And we can identify a line that we want to stretch the tissue along and then apply a tissue stretch through that line. Until we feel a release. And we can basically then turn that into a series of tissue stretches using either yin or yang unwinding. So I've gone to a depth barrier, I find a linear barrier, a line of resistance, and then if I'm doing yang unwinding, I engage it. Keep it engaged and feel for the next line. Engage that one, feel for the next one, and keep stacking them up until there's a little twist as well, until we feel a release. Or I can find a depth barrier. I'll do this in a different place now. Find a depth barrier, go through the 8 directions until I have a sense of a linear barrier, go in the disengaging direction, moving the tissue until I've taken the slack out, find the next line that feels like it disengages, so I'm into yin unwinding here. Find the next line that feels it disengages, and then go through a sequence of unwinding movements. So in effect we are doing exactly what we've done in other parts of the body, but now in the deeper tissues of the Hara. If we're really not quite sure, we can't feel what we want to feel, a very simple tissue mobilization is go into a depth barrier and then take the tissue in the direction of the navel to create a fascial stretch towards the navel. This is it's a good kind of backup if you're not sure what else to do. Just take the tissue towards the navel. So we could in fact go around our 8 areas and each one mobilize it with a fascial stretch to the navel. When we've done a little sequence of deep work like that on the Hara, we need to integrate that, and it's always nice after just do a little bit of gentle wave technique, or a little bit of vibration, or some circling, or in fact any of the introductory warming techniques. We could just put those in. It gives the body time to absorb the deeper work and creates just a little bit of a break, and then you can go on to maybe another technique. So what we're looking at here is, having gone in deep with the direct pressure, we're then applying fascial stretches, unwinding techniques to whatever we can perceive in terms of linear barriers, depth barriers. This is particularly effective where you feel restricted tissue. Say someone's had an appendix op or op on their ovary, there may be sort of scar tissue in here, or a C-section scar, and you can feel a lot of tight restricted tissue. It's great to go into it and then start playing with the tissue mobility using the 8 directions until you feel some definite lines of resistance, and then put in fascial stretches along those lines. Again, if you're feeling a little like you can't really feel anything, alternative is to go in and actually simply use the 8 directions as a mobilization technique, just to move the tissue in some valleys. When I do this, I tend not to do sort of systematically go around all 8 directions. I'll take a cross pattern. I'll tend to work 4 directions because it's a little too fiddly, sort of going around all 8. You get a good effect with the cross pattern. That in itself is a good release technique, and as you do that you may begin to feel something that you want to apply a specific fascial release to. So what I suggest you do with your partner now is go around with some direct pressure. As you go in this time, begin to explore 8 directional movement and see if that can lead you into a specific fascial stretch in a particular direction, or into a sequence of unwinding. One last little caution: as you go in deeper, particularly if you're in this segment, this segment, this segment, you may well feel the aorta. You don't want to give direct pressure on the aorta. Let your pressure slip to the side of the aorta rather than giving pressure onto it. We'll do aortic release in block 3, but for the time being, slip to one side or the other rather than anything directly on the aorta. And intersperse your deep releases with wave, with circling, with any of the sort of preparatory techniques. Okay, good. So do you want to check